Mooch joins me now. Great to speak to you. What happened?
You guys promised me hair and makeup, but I looks like I gotta, after seeing myself at the White House, I had good hair and makeup back in the day.
You're looking good. Don't you worry about that. Look, Anthony, what happened between you and Trump? Why did you turn on him so badly?
I actually didn't really turn on him. I mean, the story, my side of the story, and again, I think what's interesting about life is there's my side, his side, and maybe somewhere in the middle is the right side. But I was really trying to be supportive of him. I was on the Bill Maher show. I was asked on the show about what he was saying about the congresswomen known as the Squad. These are 4 women who the president, each of which has a different ethnic background, and some of them are of color. And the president said that they should go back to the countries they originally came from. And Bill asked me, or one of the show panelists asked me how I felt about that. I said, I wish the president wouldn't talk like that. I think that's racist. They told my Italian-American grandparents the same thing, the American nativists, go back to the country he originally came from. And so I said that. Bill said to me, well, Trump's going to attack you tomorrow. And I said, oh, I doubt that. I don't see why he would. I've been loyal to him. And then he started attacking me. And I'm really not a politician, and I'm a New Yorker. And so once he started attacking me, I started attacking him. I think I called him the fattest president since William Howard Taft, which I knew would get under his skin. And then he did what he does. He went after my wife. And I think, my wife probably hates him almost as much as Melania Trump hates him. And so that caused the whole rigmarole in the family. And then once he went after my wife, I'm not Ted Cruz. So I hit him pretty hard.
Yeah, but because, we don't want to go into the details, but he knew that there were a few issues going on in your marriage, and he knew that you were probably...
We can go into the details. I'm a real guy. My wife and I were fighting. She had filed for divorce on me. Some of it was politically related. Some of it was personal related. And I think it's a lesson for your viewers. Her and I love each other. When I got back from Washington, we set aside our differences and we worked on our marriage. And so... no, you can talk about it very openly. I have no problem doing that, and I think it's a cautionary tale for people. Don't give up on your relationships, particularly the people that you love. And I think another big learning lesson from that experience of my life is don't let your pride and your ego get the best of you. I think that was happening in our marriage, and I also think my fateful and perhaps bad decision to go work for President Trump, I think was a pride-based decision. I grew up in a blue-collar family. I went to Tufts and Harvard, built a successful business, and there I was getting the opportunity to work for the American president, even though his personality and my personality probably didn't mix very well. And I think that could be said about the 80 other people that either got let go or resigned from the Trump administration over that 4 years. But, if you put your pride and your ego into things, you make mistakes. It's a cautionary tale, but the good news about Deirdre and I, we were able to put our marriage back together, thankfully. And I would just tell your viewers and listeners, don't give up on things, particularly the people that you really love.
No, well, that's good advice. But what do you mean Melania hates Donald? Because she stood by him? Maybe their marriage had some ups and downs, but they're still together. What are you implying?
Well, first of all, it was a one-liner meant to elicit a laugh. I don't, listen, I like her. I don't really want to talk badly about her, but he's a hard guy to like. I don't think he has many super close relationships because he's so transactional. And so a result of which it was a one-liner. Listen, the same thing could be said for my marriage. I want their marriage to be together. I want them to have a healthy relationship. It was really just a one-liner meant to elicit some laughs.
Okay, look, I want to talk to you about Biden, because in June 2020, you decided to support this super PAC right side, which was aimed at electing Biden, or at least preventing Trump's re-election. That happened. Do you think you've been shortchanged? Because the guy in the White House doesn't seem to be all there, right?
Well, listen, I mean, he's 78. I think he's doing a, by and large, good job. I think a lot of the things that are happening in, what I learned in my political experience, however short-lived, is things are situational and they get personalized onto the politicians. So would we have inflation right now if Donald Trump was president? Yes, we would. It has to do with the supply chain dynamics and the 42% increase in the money supply generated by the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England over that period of time. So again, situational thing could get personalized onto President Trump or President Biden. I've been to Afghanistan on troop support missions. I have a pretty reasonable understanding of what has happened in Afghanistan. It's not clear to me that President Trump would have handled it any better. In fact, if anything, he was looking to withdraw during the interregnum period between the election and the inauguration. And so it was sloppy. There's no question about that. But again, I think that was also situational. If you're saying that the economy's sluggish, can't really say that. The economy is growing. The jobs numbers seem to be pretty good, trending upward. So you'd have to tell me exactly what it is that you're going to pick on the president for, and then I can help you analyze it and give you both sides of it.
Well, no, that's good. So what I want you to do is watch this, okay, and then we'll both react off the back.
Governor Julius here, Stratton, and the Ohio, Pennsylvania. I'm from Pennsylvania. The Illinois president Don Harmon, State Senator Laura Murphy, State Rep Martin Moylan, and we got great labor leaders here too. Tim, where's Tim? There you go, Tim. Thank you, pal. AFL-CIO State President. And Jeff Isaacson, United Brotherhood of Carpenters, and Don Finn, IBW, and Robert Reiter, R-E-I-T-E-R,
So before I come to you, the Mooch, my analysis, that bloke shouldn't be president. He shouldn't be leading the free world. His head's not in the game. I actually feel sorry for him, but I feel worried about America. You say what?
Well, he's way better than Trump. I mean, Trump was ready to demolish the democracy. He was ready to abrogate a 245-year-old system.
But I'm asking about Biden.
Well, no. Remember, you only have two choices. Okay, remember, these things are not hiring decisions for the public. They're typically popularity contests, and you're left with two people. And so it's not like you and I are on the board of a company and we've got all these resumes and we've got a search committee and we're going to pick the most qualified person. We've got two choices. And so, for me, Joe Biden is better than Trump by a million light years. This guy was a human disaster, a human wrecking ball for our alliances. He destroyed 21 million jobs in the country. He completely mishandled the pandemic. Hundreds of thousands of people died as a result of his malpractice and his malfeasance. To my contemporaries that were in the cabinet, if they were on your show tonight, they would say that President Trump had no executive management skills. He couldn't bring a team together if his life depended on it, a result of which when we went through that crisis, it was actually horrifying. And then he's such a sore loser that he can't even admit that he lost the election. He raised himself $300 million from rubes. And he didn't do anything with it. If there was a stolen election, he didn't prosecute one case in the court system. So he's a liar and a scoundrel and a con artist. And so this guy's way better than Donald Trump. And I can take you through every category if you have the time to do that. So again, you only have two choices. I choose President Biden. I would do that again. Hopefully Trump is smart enough not to run again. He'll get destroyed if he runs again. He's got a 34% approval rating nationally. More than 2/3 of the Republican Party does not want him to run again. And so we'll have to see what happens. But you're going to pick on a 78-year-old guy that's having a problem reading from the teleprompter. And that's fine. We can do that. Someday you'll be 78, and God willing, hopefully I'll make it to 78 as well. But I think he's by and large doing a good job, and he's way better than Donald Trump.
Okay. Look, Bitcoin, is it going to change the economy as we know it, or is this a flash in the pan?
Well, I think it's going to change the economy. I appreciate you putting my book up, the book, The Sweet Life. That's a picture of my wife's cake on the book. And I'll just say this to you: learn about it. You don't have to invest in it if you don't want to, but learn about it because the blockchain and the representation of those cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are going to delayer the society. If we can have permissionless peer-to-peer transfers of capital and the flow of money in exchange for our goods and services, man, we can take out a lot of middlemen. It is eco-friendly. If you just think about our parents driving over to the bank and waiting for the teller, and we were heating that bank in the winter and cooling it off in the summer, and now we can do these things over our smartphones. This sort of technology is going to allow us to trust each other over the internet because of the blockchain. And I think that's just going to have a monumental impact on our world of commerce. And I'll just say one last thing. Mark Andreessen, who invented the Netscape browser, the web browser that we all started using in the mid-90s, don't go by what I'm saying. Mark Andreessen believes that the blockchain technology and these currencies tied to it is more revolutionary than the Webscape browser. And so I think it's important for my clients and for your viewers and listeners to at least learn about it. And so I appreciate you bringing it up tonight.
Okay, look, I want to get to some questions from our viewers. Anthony Trevor via GB Views asks, do you think Trump will be president again at the next election?
Zero chance. So, if I don't know, what is it, Ladbrokes over there? Just put all the money on it. There's a zero chance that this guy will be president. You have to remember something.
So he can be. He will likely be the nominee if he runs, but he won't.
He could potentially be the nominee. Well, you didn't ask me that. If he runs, you got a bunch of fraidy cat politicians in the Republican Party. They probably won't go after him as hard as they need to in terms of what he did and what his record actually represented. Remember, he's the first Republican president since Herbert Hoover to be a one-term president, to lose the House and lose the Senate. And as I referenced earlier, 21 million jobs lost, hundreds of thousands of lives unnecessarily no longer here as a result of his decision making. So he's got a bunch of guys, men and women, frankly, that lack the courage and the backbone to go after him. For some reason, they're afraid of him. I'm not exactly sure why. And so he may win that nomination. Although, as I said, 2/3 of the Republican Party does not want him to run. I bet that he doesn't, because I know he hates losing. He'll get humiliated again. I've tried to step out of politics. But if I have to, I will return to politics to campaign against him and to remind people what he's really like as a person. And I'll point this out to everybody. If you're not tied to Trump, if you've had an independent life, you've made some financial wealth, or you're one of the generals like my friends like General Kelly or H.R. McMaster or guys like Rex Tillerson, you spoke the truth about Donald Trump. But if you're a politician or you're tied to him and need to make money off of him, you're lying through your teeth about Donald Trump and trying to pretend that you like the guy. But you've got sources inside of Washington. Very few of these politicians like him. They just happen to be afraid of him. But he's got no chance to be the president again.
Okay, Martin, via the GB News Twitter account, asks, do you think Boris Johnson is fit for the premiership?
So it's not that I want to pass on that. It's just that I'm not as familiar with Boris Johnson's politics and who he is as a guy. And so it's hard for me to assess it. I think it'd be unfair for me to opine about Boris Johnson. I'm a center-right sort of a person. I'm agnostic about people's personal lives. I don't even know the prime minister's views related to that. I know he's a member of the Conservative Party. And so I'm hoping he's pro-business, and I'm hoping he's also has a progressive element to his personality, because even if you are a conservative, we have to, in your country and in my country, create a platform of equal opportunity for people. And I think we've lost our way, both in the United Kingdom and the U.S., which is why a good group of your citizens wanted to Brexit, and a good group of our citizens are voting for nonsensical people like Donald Trump. It has to do with the fact that we have blue-collar people in these countries. I grew up in a blue-collar family. I would describe that family as economically aspirational. But these blue-collar families today are now economically desperational. And so I hope he's got the right policies to cure that. I'm just not close enough to it. So I apologize. I love answering questions as honestly as possible. I just don't have the information on that one.
So let's go to a question about US politics from Wayne, a GBNews viewer, who asks, has a backdoor female black president that no one has voted for always been the plan?
So, Wayne, I got to take issue with the way you're phrasing the question. When you say no one has voted for, I'm assuming you're talking about Vice President Kamala Harris. Well, of course, everyone voted for her. She was on the ticket with President Biden, then Vice President Biden, and she won the election alongside of him. And as we all know from our Constitution, God forbid if something happens to him, people did elect her to step in for him. I think what you're basically saying is you think that Joe Biden is out to lunch or President Biden's out to lunch and Kamala Harris is running things. There's no indication of that in our country. I'm very close to Ron Klain, the White House Chief of Staff. He spoke at my conference, the SALT conference in September, gave a very thoughtful interview. You can find that on the web. I think President Biden has a great team around him. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris represents one of those people. But you can't say somebody didn't vote for her. They did vote for her. She was on the ticket. It was a Biden-Harris ticket, the same way it was a Trump-Pence ticket.
Final question from Max via GB Views. Was Biden and Trump a lose-lose?
Well, that's the age-old question. I think a good 50% of the people in the United States do think that. I personally don't think that. I think that the vice president has demonstrated over the 50 years of his public service career to really love the country, and he's dedicated to the democracy, and a result of which we need that right now in our country. We've got people in the country that want to change the rules. We've got a group of Republicans that they think like a tyranny of the minority. They want to eliminate voters from the voting rolls, and they want to tighten up so that they can win again. And remember, President Trump only lost by 40,000 votes. He lost the popular vote by 7.5 million. But if you count up the votes in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, they only lost by 40,000 votes. So the Republicans are playing this game of seeing if they can win. And I'll point out to all your viewers and listeners, the Republicans have only won the popular vote and the Electoral College vote one time in the last 32 years, and that's in 2004. So I would recommend to the Republicans that they expand their ideas and think like entrepreneurs. Their market is changing. The demographics of that market is changing, and expand their ideas. They're going the other way. And I think that's going to be a disaster for them. So for me personally, no, it was a win-lose. Joe Biden was a win comparatively to what President Trump was offering. But I think it's a good point. 52% of the Americans did not vote, or maybe it was 48% of the Americans did not vote. That's not great voter participation. And that's a sign of apathy. And that means that a lot of people do feel the way your questioner, your viewer feels. So that makes me sad, by the way. We've got to get more active, and we've got to get more patriotic people involved, both on your side of the pond and our side of the pond.
Anthony Scaramucci, thank you so much for being here on tonight's Big Question.